You woke up today with a heaviness you couldn't name. Not the ordinary fatigue that comes after too many late nights, not the dull ache of routine exhaustion, but a deep cellular tiredness that felt older than this life. It was in your bones, in your heartbeat, in the way your breath hesitated before entering your chest. Almost as if your body was whispering, I can't pretend anymore. And maybe you looked around your room at the familiar walls, the familiar tasks waiting for you, and felt that quiet refusal grow louder. Because something inside you is finished. Finished with the endless performance of stability, the constant effort to look okay, the habit of smiling when your spirit is bone dry. You can't keep wearing the mask of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. You can't keep participating in a life that no longer matches the frequency of your becoming. And I know part of you is terrified by this unraveling. You were taught to measure your worth by your capacity to hold it all together. You were taught that if you're tired, you're weak, that if you're uncertain, you're failing, that if you let go, you'll disappear. But the truth is simpler and more revolutionary. You are exhausted because you're finally out of agreement with who you had to be to survive. You are tired because the field that held your old identity is dissolving, and your body knows it. This is not the end of your story. It's the dissolving of the script that was never yours. It's the quiet collapse of the scaffolding that kept you small, kept you pleasing, kept you spinning in circles of proving. And as that structure falls apart, you may feel like you're falling with it. But look closer. You're not falling. You're being freed. Because what's coming next is not another performance. It's the first time you will stand in the world without armor. It will feel raw. It will feel exposed. But it will also feel honest in a way nothing else ever has. You might notice how your mind is already searching for something to fix, a new routine to force clarity, a new identity to rush into so you don't have to feel the vastness of this in between. But this time, there is no fixing. This time, there is only witnessing. Because the moment you stop distracting yourself, the truth shows up, unpolished and undeniable. And the truth is that for years you were living on borrowed patterns, inherited beliefs, silent agreements you never consciously chose but felt obligated to keep. Agreements that said, stay small so others feel safe. Stay quiet so you're not abandoned. Stay productive so you never have to feel worthless. But look around you now. Those agreements are losing their power. Not because you've become lazy or ungrateful or uncommitted, but because your soul finally refuses to sign them. And when the old contracts expire, what you feel isn't failure. It's liberation. A liberation that doesn't look glamorous. It looks like fatigue that no amount of sleep can touch. It looks like detachment from what you once called purpose. It looks like the uncomfortable realization that you don't want to rebuild the life you worked so hard to maintain. And I want you to hear this without flinching. That doesn't mean you're broken. That doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're finally honest. It means your nervous system is no longer willing to pretend that the old path still fits. This is not a collapse to be solved. It's a transition to be honored. Because when you finally admit that you don't want to go back to how things were, when you stop bargaining with the old identity, something begins to shift beneath the surface. You can't name it yet. You can't see where it's leading. But you can feel it in the quiet spaces between your thoughts. The awareness that you are returning to yourself, a self you buried beneath all the layers of should, a self that doesn't need to perform, a self that doesn't measure worth by how much it produces, a self that knows you were never meant to stay hidden in your own life. Take a slow breath. Let it sink in that nothing about this moment is accidental. This heaviness, this disorientation, this strange sense that you're hovering between worlds, it's all evidence that something deeper is waking up inside you. Not a new persona, not a shinier version of your old self, but a remembrance. A reconnection to the part of you that was never impressed by your achievements or threatened by your failures. You might find yourself craving solitude in a way that makes no sense to your logical mind. You might feel an instinctive pull to step back from the noise of other people's expectations, from the timelines that rush you, from the performances that used to feel necessary. You might even feel guilty for wanting to withdraw, as though your worth depends on your availability to everyone else. But listen to the subtle hum beneath that guilt. It's the call to stop outsourcing your truth, to stop borrowing other people's maps for your own becoming, to sit in the space between what you once believed and what you're finally willing to feel. Because the longer you avoid this pause, the longer you postpone your real life. The life that doesn't need a mask to feel safe. The life that doesn't need approval to feel meaningful. The life that doesn't require you to abandon yourself for the comfort of others. You have spent years perfecting the art of adaptation, years bending your energy to fit into spaces that never saw you, years proving that you could hold it all, carry it all, fix it all, without ever asking yourself if you wanted to. And now, the spell is breaking. Your body is refusing to keep performing what your soul has outgrown. That refusal is sacred. It's not an error. It's the softest revolution you'll ever experience. Because when you stop pretending you're fine, you become available for something more honest than fine could ever be. Let's name what this really is. It's a dismantling. A dismantling of everything that kept you running in circles, chasing validation, avoiding rejection, pretending you were satisfied with a life that only ever mirrored your fear. It's not happening because you failed to be consistent enough, spiritual enough, disciplined enough. It's happening because your energy no longer consents to be contained by an identity built on survival. You'll notice it in the way your old goals suddenly feel irrelevant, in the way conversations you once tolerated now drain you to the bone, in the way you look around your familiar spaces and realize they don't carry your frequency anymore. This is the point where most people panic, where they scramble to fill the emptiness with something, anything, that feels like purpose. But if you can resist that reflex, if you can sit in the dissonance without flinching, you'll discover something miraculous. Your clarity isn't lost. It's just waiting for you to stop recycling what was never yours. Because clarity doesn't arrive through forcing. It emerges through surrender. It takes root in the soil of your honesty. It blossoms when you finally allow yourself to be emptied of all the identities you built to survive. You don't have to rush this. You don't have to know where it's leading. You only have to trust that what feels like unraveling is actually an invitation into coherence. So let the old patterns decay. Let the old ambitions fade. Let the old roles crumble. Not because you're quitting, but because you're graduating. This is what alignment feels like before it becomes visible. Unfamiliar, disorienting, silent, but beneath all that, astonishingly real. Breathe into this. You are not here to keep playing a version of yourself that no longer feels alive. You are not here to perform the same emotional routines just because they used to feel safe. You are not here to pretend that the cracks in your old life aren't growing wider by the day. Because the cracks are not your failure. They are the evidence that you are ready to evolve beyond the architecture of survival. Ready to feel what it's like to belong to yourself without permission. Ready to trust your own resonance more than the projections of those who never truly saw you. This is why everything feels so unstable, because the illusion was always more solid than the truth. The illusion had rules, timelines, instructions. The illusion gave you something to hold, even if it was suffocating. But the truth? The truth doesn't need to announce itself in big dramatic gestures. It doesn't need to rush in to replace what you've lost. It waits. It hums. It expands quietly as you become spacious enough to hold it. And you are becoming spacious. Every time you choose to pause instead of perform. Every time you allow yourself to grieve without explaining why. Every time you honor the impulse to step back, to rest, to feel. You're reclaiming the energy you once scattered across 1,000 performances. You don't need to earn this arrival. You don't need to prove that you're ready. Your readiness is self-evident in the way you can no longer tolerate what once felt acceptable. It's in the way your nervous system refuses to pretend anymore. Let that be enough for today. Because this season is not about striving. It's about releasing every disguise that made you believe striving was necessary. Read this slowly. You are not losing your way. You are losing the weight of all the compromises you made to be palatable, the weight of all the agreements you signed just to feel included, the weight of all the ways you abandoned your own knowing because it didn't match the collective script. If you feel lighter and emptier all at once, you are not broken. You are becoming transparent to yourself. You are beginning to see through the illusion of permanence, the illusion of control. You are remembering that nothing real requires your performance. What is real does not require you to contort your body, your mind, your spirit into smaller shapes. What is real does not ask you to pretend you're unaffected by what your heart has outgrown. What is real simply waits for you to stop looking elsewhere. And when you do, when you finally return your attention inward, you find that everything you thought you were searching for is already humming beneath your skin. This is why it feels so tender right now. You are standing on the threshold of your own emergence, not a rebirth that needs ceremony or applause, but the quietest return to the part of you that never left. If you can allow this unraveling to complete itself, if you can let the old shape of you dissolve without rushing to replace it with a new identity, something extraordinary happens. You discover that you don't need to become anything. You only need to allow yourself to be here, raw, honest, unguarded. You don't have to make sense of it all. You don't have to map the timeline of your becoming. You don't have to convince anyone that this is sacred, because your body already knows it is. So pause right here. Feel your own aliveness. Feel the field around you softening, opening, inviting you into a frequency that doesn't depend on your effort. It only requires your presence. You are not dissolving. You are finally revealing who you've been beneath every layer of survival. And that is not something you rush. It's something you honor.